Playbook by CEO East Africa Magazine in association with FCCA Uganda and Deloitte.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Those who have gotten fond of following us on the CFO Playbook, you're doing a great job. And of course, CFO Playbook is a production of the CEO East Africa Magazine in partnership with FCCA Uganda and Deloitte, who are great partners. And together we are trying to understand the innings of the finance profession, look at how it's developing in Uganda, of course by talking to the people who are in the thick and thin of it, the CFOs and the CFOs in the making. So here we get to, have conversations about the people. We get insights into what happens at the work and the changing trends and the landscape, in the hope that we shall inspire some upcoming finance people to rise up in the profession, and even those who are yet to decide where they want to go in terms of their career, to make a choice to come into the profession. Because like we've heard, or we believe, I think the world needs more finance people. Because just this morning as I was coming, I was listening on radio, and it's like, they're talking about, the COP, I think it was 29 or 30, and they're talking about there's a new need of, climate finance people, especially from Africa. So let's get this show started. With me here is Mr. Moses Aman from Hima Cement. The guys who have been with us from the start, that's what they like to say.
Indeed.
And let's start by you telling us about yourself. Who are you? What do you call yourself?
Who am I?
Yes.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me, Cham. So I'm a trained accountant. I've got about 16 years of experience. I started off with PwC back in 2007. With them, I moved a bit around the world, the US, the UK. I came back and I decided, I'm tired of auditing and I wanted now to be the one who is audited.
Okay.
And that's when I decided to move to Hima Cement. And I've been with Hima since 2015 up to today. And in the position of CFO, I've held that role from 2020. Yes, so I qualified with the ACCA back in, I think, 2009.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you do the math, that makes me a fellow of the profession, and I've been reaping the benefits since.
I don't understand that a fellow is the kafuru in finance, the one who has mastered the in and outs of finance. How did you end up here? I mean, I'm sure all of us have had different dreams when we were children. I'm not sure if we worked hard at them. Maybe that's why some of us ended up where we are. Because I never saw myself being a journalist. I don't know about you. How did you start?
Well, like you said, as children or as younger people, we tend to gravitate towards the more visible roles, things that you see as you grow up. You go and see a doctor. Even journalists, you see them on TV. So I'm sure some people aspired to be that. Accountants, probably not so much. Yeah. Myself, I wanted to be a pilot. I still do, maybe not as a primary source of income, but hopefully one day I can do it for recreational purposes. But I think the next best thing for me was accountancy. And I think it turned out to be a really, really good, sound decision. So after the aspirations around being a pilot were shattered, I chose accountancy, and particularly ACCA. And then also I worked with a very, very good professional firm that has enabled me to spread my wings and really express myself in the profession. And beyond that, even there are other qualities that hopefully we can discuss in the course of this interview.
Okay.
That we can share some more. Yeah.
Who shattered your dreams?
I think it was reality,
Okay.
to be honest, because to be a successful pilot, it's quite a bit of money.
Okay.
Yeah, in terms of the education. So it got to a point whereby I had a discussion with my parents, and they said, this is financially out of reach for us.
Okay.
So let's take the next best thing. Yes.
Okay. And for anyone out there, maybe the high school or that university, and I know that nowadays there's more liberalism around what you study to enter into the finance profession, at least before you get into the mainstream. What subjects do you think people should be focusing on? Or you yourself, what subject were you good at that you think eventually got you to get where you are?
Okay, I don't think there's specific subjects, but I think one thing that's important is numeracy. Yeah? Yes, I mean, you have to have a decent appreciation of numbers because that really forms the core of what accountants do. But beyond that, you need to be somebody who is committed to a journey of lifetime learning, so to speak. Because as you progress in the profession, there are more and more demands that come across your way other than just the numeracy. Speaking this language we call English is also very, very important, being the primary mode of communication in the business world. So with that, and along with other subjects, you can succeed in the profession.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just wondering, okay, there's being a CFO, but then also being a CFO of a huge company like Hima Cement. And I'm just wondering, how does your day look like? Like, when you wake up and get to office, like, how's your typical day like?
Well, I think even before getting to office, yes, I spend a decent amount of time online, not on social media, but on soaking up the news.
Okay.
Yeah, it helps to have your ear on the ground and your eyes wide open. So I subscribe a lot to YouTube, whether it's political news, whether it's financial, especially the financial one. I'm quite biased towards that because I know if somebody somewhere in the US sneezes, there's probably going to be an impact here in Uganda, and it helps to be knowledgeable about that and understand what the impact is going to be for yourself. But yes, getting to the office, it's very, very tempting to sit down on your laptop the moment you start and start going through the emails, start reviewing the reports. But I take the time to try and check on my team, say good morning, have a few minutes for idle chit chat. It helps you to know the mood of things, as opposed to diving straight into the work. And then, of course, yes, once the work comes in, before you know it, 5 hours in the day are out. Yeah.
Okay. And what would you say are some of the scary parts about your job? Myself as a journalist, some of the things that scare me is when you write a story and this story is going to impact people, maybe not in the best of ways.
Yes.
Maybe it's going to hurt somebody's career, but again, it must be published. And usually what I do as soon as I hit the enter button, I just shut my laptop and switch off my phone. Because I know some calls are going to come through and I feel bad, but again, I feel it's something that must be done. So I don't know, are there any scary parts of your job that sometimes when you wake up as you're dressing, you're like, oh, okay, I wish maybe I'd become a journalist or become a pilot.
Yeah. No, I think, okay, it really depends on your risks as a business. And I think one thing that probably cuts across for all businesses, especially if you're profit making, is this topic of taxation. When you receive an email from the taxman, it initially makes your heart skip a bit because you know from experience that it's not always been positive. But I think the best thing to do is to grab the bull by the horns and not defer reading those emails or not defer dealing with that situation. It could be just a basic inquiry or something like that. Another thing also is when our currency moves. Yeah, because every day, for example, I get updates on FX positions from the different banks. And when I start seeing things going the opposite direction from what we had forecasted, then alarm bells start going off in my head. Okay. And the question is, what do I need to do now to minimize the impact of these currency movements? Yeah.
So what are your survival skills? Like I've told you, I switch off my phone and and disappear. And I only switch when I switch it on the next day.
Yes.
I first, like where you peep at your phone like this to see if anybody has WhatsApped you. What are the survival strategies like? How do you prepare yourself, then your team and everybody else?
Okay, I mean, in my profession, it pays to be ahead of the game. It pays to see things coming. Yeah, because when you see things coming, you can take action. But in the unlikely event that you do not see something coming, I mean, you have to sit down with your teams. Many times we do not work on our own. Yeah, and every time I'm presented with a problem, whether it's any of the examples that I've shared, the first thing I do is realize that, okay, fine, I'm ultimately responsible, but I'm not working alone. The first question I ask my team members when they come to me with a problem is, they say, okay, Moses, we have this issue. I tell them, for you, what do you think? And it's better to have a wrong answer than not to come with a solution at all. 90% of the time, I probably will know the solution, but for that 10%, it helps to collect, And many times you find some very interesting ideas coming out of your subordinates. Huh?
Okay.
Yeah, so we go through a troubleshooting process. I learn a few things. In most cases, they also learn. And sometimes we come up with some really ingenious solutions, especially from the much younger people. Okay. They have a very, very unique way of solving problems than us, the older ones.
Okay.
Yeah.
And speaking of engaging your team in trying to find solutions, I mean, there's the issue of workplace politics. And I recently saw somebody writing saying that to try to ignore workplace politics is basically like hiding your place, your head in the sand, because workplace politics is real. And so in some organizations, people have learned to say, okay, what does the boss want to hear? And when you ask for advice, that's what they tell you, because they have learned you. So how do you make your team comfortable to be able to tell you what they feel, as opposed to what you want to hear?
Okay, it's like...
Or do you actually do it?
Of course you have to do it, otherwise you never get responses from them. But it's like when you're in primary school and the teacher asked for answers. There was that teacher who would cane you if you made the wrong answer, and then there was that teacher who would tell you, what, there are no wrong answers in my class, And that helps people to be more open, more, forthcoming. Okay, not to blow our trumpet, but we try, my leadership style is I would say, democratic. Yes, it's collaborative, and we try to hear everybody out. Yeah, and I think the important thing is that when somebody gets something wrong, are we going to punish, or are we going to learn from it? And I think also there's a thin line between gross negligence and things just going wrong. If you've tried to go through a logical solution to solving a problem and it just goes wrong, what can we learn from that? Yeah, so many times, I encourage them to give me solutions. Sometimes you have to adapt your style. In a group, people will tend to sit back because everybody fears ridicule. If you give a solution and it's it doesn't come off so well, people fear ridicule. So sometimes you say, okay, no, let me break down these groups. Let me have maybe some one-on-one sessions, and it tends to be very, very productive, especially the one-on-ones, because people say, okay, it's just me and him. If I get something wrong, it's only the two of us who know about it. Okay. Yeah, so that builds the trust quite a bit.
Okay, and I know there are things that we study in school. You guys studied in school on the qualities of a good CFO, because I didn't do that. But then also when it comes to reality, there's also, especially in different markets, and especially maybe looking at Uganda, what it requires to be a good CFO could be different from what it requires to be a good CFO. Or maybe they could be the same, but the order of strength could be different. Given your experience and what you've been through, in your own way, how do you think, what skills and qualities does it take to be a successful CFO?
Okay, in the context of Uganda, because we are a relatively small economy in the global context, so you don't have a lot of specialization, so to speak. Your typical CFO may not, in some of those bigger economies, may not have a deep understanding of every single aspect of the finance realm. So I think in this kind of economy, you have to, there's a Uganda word I'm looking for, where you have to be versatile, You have to be sort of a jack of all trades. And having an appreciation, you're better off being a jack of all trades and a master of none, within the finance realms, that is. So, for example, today I'm responsible for finance. It involves taxation, it involves reporting, and also, surprisingly, IT is under my docket, you know. And once you can embrace the, so to speak, chaos in the economy or in the country, that's the first step towards being successful. We are a country that is very susceptible to movements in forex rates. We have higher than normal inflation at about 5% or so, and embracing these helps you to succeed in the role. I just talked about the different areas that I'm in charge of, you know. And for example, if you look at IT, I have to have some degree of digital literacy. Yeah, so I have to dabble in that a bit. Then tomorrow I'm dealing with taxation. Then another day I'm dealing with financial reporting. And I think once you embrace the fact that that is how it's going to be, then that is the road to success, in my personal opinion.
Okay, it's interesting about, you know, the widening roles and the skills and requirements that you know, a modern CFO should be able to have. Maybe I shouldn't use the word modern, because modern is a bit subjective. But so then, don't you find that a challenge in terms of having to know much more than you're supposed to be knowing, or it's something that you think it's something you have accepted to live with? Yeah,
I think that's a very good point, Cham. And I think challenge sometimes is good. If you find yourself comfortable, then probably that's a sign that you're not growing. And for CFOs who, in this day and age, are aspiring to become, for the next thing, which is probably become CEOs, it helps to appreciate other areas of the business other than just the finance side of things. In my experience, particularly, there's a topic around digital transformation, which I have wholly embraced. And I think because of the fact that, you know, most of the digital tools fall within the finance realm, or the other digital tools eventually feed into the finance realm, it is something that you really have to understand holistically. Another topic is around something like sustainability. Yeah, sustainability is no longer an emerging trend. It's now firmly ingrained in most organizations. In our sector of manufacturing, it's an area that you have to be really aware about, and it's not any one person's particular job. It's pretty much all of us. And as a CFO, it may seem like it is out of your realm, but when you actually internalize the topic, sometimes you find that you are very well placed to help further the sustainability agenda of your organization. Yeah.
Everybody talks about this animal called sustainability. But in the space of manufacturing, for example,
Yes.
what is sustainability for you? What constitutes sustainability for Hima Cement?
Well, of course, there are many aspects to this topic, but for us, I think one of the key areas is the environment. Yes, particularly our emissions. We are a very high energy-intensive business. Two, we look at the communities in where we operate, and then also we look at our workplace. Yeah, our workplace dynamics. On the environment, we have deliberate efforts to reduce our emissions. Yes, and there are some initiatives that we do to try and replace fossil fuels. Yeah, it's like trying to drive, say, compare a hybrid car with a pure, fossil fuel car, and that's what we are trying to do to our operations. Now, where we come in from a finance perspective is, at the end of the day, it has to make commercial sense. It's not a charitable work that you're doing. You're trying to achieve a sustainable target, but also you're still in the business of returning something for your shareholders. So when you're presented with a number of options, you, the person who is in finance, can say, you know what, okay, I have this on my menu. It makes sense to do A, B, C, and D, and we can still achieve our target and still maintain our profit ambitions. In our communities, we are in the mining business. Part of our operations involves mining, and this is where in some of these areas there are people who already live there, and it is our ambition to make sure that their lives are minimally impacted negatively. In cases whereby we have a big employment problem in this country, we try to involve the local communities. We employ them. Some people work at some of these sites, and we keep them in the best possible position, including the rehabilitation efforts. On the workplace, we embrace gender diversity. Okay, not gender diversity, but diversity in general. Gender tends to be more predominant in this part of the world, and it's something that we have taken by the horns. I'll give you an example of we have a female driver program. It's very rare to see ladies driving these heavy trucks.
Yeah.
Yes, but at Hima we have a deliberate program that trains these drivers. And the surprising thing is that it actually makes economic sense. It makes commercial sense, because unlike some of our male drivers who sometimes are indisciplined, the female ones are very, very focused. And what that means is that I have less chances maybe of accidents, my trucks will turn around faster, and the economics eventually answers for itself. And as a finance person, you're able to draw the relationship between that performance and the initiative that you're doing. And this is where we find ourselves doing that additional work other than just reporting on the numbers.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're saying sustainability is good business?
It is good business, yes.
Okay.
It is.
Okay, and I know you've been at this for quite some time, and looking at the time when you started as a junior accountant, wherever you are, I remember every time I mention junior accountant, I remember there's one accountant at Monitor that we never liked, because he used to cancel all our vouchers by 50%. Looking at where you started and where you are now, and also maybe looking at the future, where you're heading, what would you say are some of the remarkable like trends that are emerging, or things that have dropped out of being say maybe in fashion, if I could say? So because this is help to, if there's anybody out there who's struggling with in terms of how do I position myself for the future, from where you sit, what would you say are some of the key trends that anybody else should be watching for?
Okay, I think, from a junior accountant's perspective and mine, it's quite a different context. But from where I stand today, I've alluded to some of the things like sustainability, but also I think regulation is an area that somebody has to really keep focus on, no matter the industry that you're in. If it is in banking, there are the financial regulations. In our area, we've got our own regulators, and particularly also concepts like taxation. Yeah, for a business of a certain scale, many times you will find that pretty much every conceivable tax that is there, you will be impacted by it. And in many cases, you do not want to get caught out for gross negligence and non-compliance in certain tax aspects. So it helps to know what legislation is there. It helps to maintain good relationships with the various authorities that you deal with. That transparency, I have found, helps me to deal with some sticky issues. Yeah, if you're meeting somebody for the first time, because you have a tax claim against you, the discussion becomes very, very difficult. But if you've been in touch with them and you've given the air of transparency and willingness to work with them, it's a lot easier. I think another area that is very important, especially at my level, is talent management. Yeah, you have to deliberately dedicate time to attracting talent, growing it, and maintaining it in your organization. And it has to be a deliberate effort. And I think the harder part is really maintaining. Yeah, because you attract people, maybe they are, especially when they are less experienced, it's a bit easier. But once they get into the organization, how do you continue to motivate them and you have to have deliberate steps. Maybe we'll get to talk about that.
Actually, now that you raise it with, I wanted to ask the issue around demand and supply of talent. I think there are certain skills, there are certain professions where I think the issue of talent is still. So for us who do social sciences, we are abundant and available, and we are flexible. It's easy to find a social sciences person and ask them what can you do. You'll be like, I can do everything. But I know there are certain specialized skills like in finance. How do you see the demand and supply of talent? And then also going back to what you were saying, what are some of the key? What have you learned about what it takes to maintain good people? Yeah.
Okay, I think in accountancy, or in accounting in general, there is also quite a bit of supply.
Okay.
Like I said earlier, we have an employment problem, or not a problem, a challenge in this country. And there are many people who are degree holders, who are even professional accountants. But the talent, I think talent is a different word from being a professional or a degree holder. You may hold them, but you don't really have certain qualities that we look for, because we look at that in addition to other things. I think to answer your question around maintaining the talent, it starts by really understanding your teams and what motivates them. It's easy to get trapped in the discussion of a financial reward. But if that becomes your primary bargaining chip, then you find yourself in a bidding war with somebody who is willing to offer more. And we need to try and steer away from that. It's important, yes, and you need to reward people for the effort that they put in. But many times as people progress, you begin to appreciate that they want more than just money, you know. And some of the things that we try to work on is training, yes. We do quite a bit of training, whether it is in-house, and also we encourage the people on our teams to pursue external training. We facilitate that process. If it involves giving people time away from work, that is good. If it involves creating some degree of flexibility in how they can work for the organization, it helps. Another aspect is recognition. Yeah, recognition is really, really important, especially when somebody, it is very evident that they are putting their 101%. It helps to blow their trumpet on their behalf and say, you know what, Cham did this, and this is the reason why we are a successful organization. I find blending these things quite beneficial, and provided it is genuine. It should not be hollow and just an attempt to prevent somebody from living. It should be really genuine. Yeah.
Okay. Speaking about blowing trumpets, especially your own, I think, the more you rise to the position where you are, I think the more they need to try to differentiate yourself from everybody else that is in the market, because you're beginning to see, in biblical terms, like the promised land is near, because once you get to exco level, everybody starts looking at at the top, at the top position. But you're also looking at yourself being attractive to other roles, like being on different boards and all that. What would you say? And I know then that comes to, I think there's still a good number of finance professions, or rather professionals, who think it's just enough to do your numbers very well and make sure everything is good. Let's talk about the importance of building your own brand and positioning yourself in the market for greater things. And of course, even while we bring in things like, the awards and all that, what has been your personal experience? And do you think it's a good idea to blow your profession, or they used to say sometimes you need to do your work and let your good work speak for you? What has been your personal experiences?
Well, I think the idea of brand building is good, and also, what can I say? Getting your message out there. Blowing the trumpet seems like you're trying to show off, but also getting your message out there. Because you see, many times accountants are victims of our own silence. Your typical accountant is somebody who is reserved, not very noisy, and is comfortable to sit behind their laptop and get the job done. So I think we owe it to the profession. It's not just ourselves, but to the profession to talk about what we are doing to grow the profession and also to help the businesses that we work for. Talking specifically about the CFO Awards, yes, I was a winner 2 years ago on the area of financial transformation. Yeah, of course, yes, that boosted my individual profile, and also it helped me to widen my network. But in that process of talking about some of the things that we do, it was a validation of not only myself but my team's efforts, because this was teamwork. And I remember when we were doing the nominations, it was my team was essentially pushing me, and they were saying, Moses, we have done all these things, we have worked on these projects, we burnt the midnight oil. Surely the world needs to know about it. And so that win was not just a win for myself, but also for my team. So it's had quite a number of benefits. It grows the network, it grows the brand, but also it exposes you to new learnings. When you meet other people who they could be in the profession or even outside, there's always something to learn from them.
Leadership. Let's talk about leadership and your personal style. Is there any particular leadership style that you think works for you? Or underrated to that, do you have a personal maybe mantra that kind of leads you? Myself, of late, I've picked ruthless execution as my as my mantra for this remaining quarter of the year, because you need to bring together the bits and pieces which have been missing, and you need to try and close the year. I don't know, from your end, what's your perspective on these views about leadership?
Okay, I think I'd said that my style is really around, it's more democratic, more participatory. And I think anybody aspiring to be a leader needs to recognize that our most valuable resource is the people we work with. For as long as, let's say, you work in an organization, even let's say you're a self-made person, if you really look back into your history, in your growth journey, you realize that there are a few people who took the time to coach you, to develop you, or to trigger that desire in you to grow. Yeah, or some people who essentially handed out their hands to you to lift you up. So you have to pay back by doing the same for others. I think that is very, very important. It has to be deliberate. You have to work with the younger generation, with the younger professionals, to identify those who are willing to go that journey with you and extend a helping hand to them. I think it is rewarding for yourself as well, because you get to build a fantastic team, and that reduces on your stress itself, but also you get to leave a legacy.
Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
That's my firm belief.
Okay, and this is not. I mean, it's still, of course, in the area of finance leadership. I know that Hima Cement has been going through a number of changes. I think the transition from Rafaj to the new ownership, and how is that going, and what has been the role of finance in managing that transition? And maybe in there, what lessons are there to learn, in terms of how can the role of CFOs in managing transition and change in organizations?
Okay, I think with any transition, the moment you are in leadership, the first thing you need to embrace is that change will always meet some resistance. It will always be fraught with some degree of anxiety, and as a leader, you need to be able to manage that. So my primary goal, really, even before looking at the numbers and all that, has been to manage my team. People have a lot of questions. You try to answer them to the best extent possible, and you lead them through that transition journey to alleviate some of the anxiety that they could have, and to walk the journey with them. Specifically, from a financial perspective, yes, finance is very key to this process, even before and also leading up to the transition. You find that you're changing systems and the like, and finance is playing a very core role to that. A number of your business relationships, whether it is banking and so on, could be evolving, and you find yourself at the heart of that. I think at the end of the day, it is to help the organization keep its eye on the prize or on the ball, which is, you're there to return something for your shareholders, and you keep on focusing on that, but you never forget about your team.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you read?
Cham, to be honest, I struggle to read, but I found a way to cheat that process. Yes, I listen to a lot of audiobooks.
Okay.
Yes.
What have you been listening to recently?
Wow. I find myself drawn to a topic. I've listened to a number of books. I think over about 10 books this year. And one thing that I find consistent is that I am drawn to a topic called behavioral psychology. I'm interested in how people think and what motivates their behavior and how I can influence that.
Okay.
Yes, so quite a number.
And what tricks, what hacks have you picked from that have helped you in real life?
In real life?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, I'll focus on 2 books. There's a book by a gentleman called Simon Sinek. It's called Leaders Eat Last. Yes, I listened to that about 2 months ago. And that book really resonated with me in the sense that, as a leader, you need to try to put your team first. It has to be a deliberate effort to put your team first, and to remember that you need not leave anyone behind. Yeah. The second book that I read is a book called Alchemy. It's by a very prominent marketeer, a gentleman called Rory Sutherland. He is a British guy called Rory Sutherland. And this book, it's not a typical book that an accountant would read, but I think sometimes it helps because it emphasizes that not every solution to every problem can be solved logically. And as accountants, we tend to think logically, 1 + 1 must equal to 2. But what this book challenges us to do is, many times when you're faced with a very, very complex problem, is to try to think outside the box. Because today we are filled with scientists, accountants, people who solve things logically, and yet we still have problems. So if we have been doing these things for hundreds of years, maybe the solution to some of the problems is they require illogical solutions. It's a very interesting book, and you who is in this field of publicity, I would really recommend it for you.
I'm beginning to get ideas as you're talking about illogical solutions.
Yes.
And I remember the story I read about, I think in a Monitor, about a certain PS in a certain ministry who was supposed to be engaging in witchcraft. And I think he was trying to think out of the box. It's very but I think I'll look it up, and I also try to listen to it, because reading these days, actually, unless something is on the screen, holding a physical book is becoming harder and harder for me, and
it is a challenge.
I'll learn a few tips about cheating from you, and maybe 10 years from now, 15 years, and looking back, have you tried to think about what kind of legacy you would want to leave behind, or how you would love? Because of course there's also a limit to how much you can control that, but there's also the ideal. How would you love to be remembered when you left the profession and possibly gone to Bahamas for your retirement?
Well, first of all, I think 10 years is very, very soon, to be honest, but I do not think I will be remembered for how much profit I helped to generate in the organizations I worked with. But I would like to think that I would have a memory of those I touched and I influenced and I helped to grow. Yeah, so for me, my objective is really to touch as many lives professionally as possible, even on a personal level, and help those people become better versions of themselves. Because I myself, I am a beneficiary of that. So I'm trying to hand it down as well. Yeah.
Maybe as we come close to the end, trying to summarize most of the things we've said, if you were to give him a 5-minute masterclass on how to be your best, especially in terms of the finance profession, what would be some of the key things that you would point out?
Okay, I think I would try to summarize pretty much everything we've talked about today. And in a few words, you have to commit yourself to a lifetime of learning. Finance as we know it 20 years ago, some principles have remained the same, but the way in which we conduct our work is very different. Today it's very ubiquitous to operate with a laptop. If I have an accounting challenge, I can run it through ChatGPT as opposed to looking through a large volume of IFRS books and so on. And I would like to think in 20 years' time, that also will evolve. Maybe I'll be able to talk to a PC or whatever it is. So I think for the professionals today, you have to be able to embrace change and you have to commit yourself to a lifetime of learning, because it is very, very quick for a particular skill set to get outdated.
Thank you, Moses. It's been a delightful show. I think we look forward to hosting you again in the very near future. We'd like to thank ACCA Uganda, Deloitte Uganda for helping us put together this show. See you next time on another round of the CFO Playbook.
CFO Playbook by CEO East Africa Magazine in association with FCCA Uganda and Deloitte.